Devils setting up to be big-time buyers March 7th. How aggressive they'll be? Based on new reports, I'd hedge on the side of very. A statement giving Devils fans optimism as we approach the trade deadline. Welcome in to Devils Digest. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button as we're talking all things Devils now and in the future. Devils looking at Brad Marchand on Boston, according to Jim Murphy. Bruins want to keep Brad Marchand, but everything has a price. Devils, Washington right now being the two teams reported to be in on Brad Marchand. Sure, there's other shooters, but everything has a price. Look, whether you like Brad Marchand or not, whether you want him on the team, whether you don't want him on the team, whatever you feel about Brad Marchand, you have to be happy that Tom Fitzgerald is looking in this direction. He wants to get a better top six. He wants to be a little bit more dangerous up front. He wants to have, a little bit more of an edge over these other teams in the playoffs. So whether you want Brad Marchand or you don't want Brad Marchand, Tom Fitzgerald is looking in the right way. He's looking to get his top six better. Obviously we've talked a lot about the bottom six and wanting a third line center. He knows that the top six also needs some help. And when look at Brad Marchand, 21 goals, 26 assists. Yeah, that helps the top six. That would be something that would make this top six looking better, looking a little bit more dangerous. In the playoffs, he's got 138 points in 157 playoff games. I wouldn't be worried about Brad Marchand producing in the playoffs. I think Devil fans maybe remember 2 years ago in the playoffs, Jesper Bratt had some tough time scoring. Nico Hischier didn't add as much offense. No, Brad Marchand will add offense. I'm not worried about Brad Marchand adding offense. It's kind of sometimes when you go to the playoffs, you have those players who maybe produce a little bit more sometimes. No, I like to have it where I have some of those players where I know what I'm going to get out of them. You're going to get a lot out of Brad Marchand in the playoffs. Now, when you look at his numbers previous seasons, about 7 years ago is when this guy started to become a star in the league. He hit 80 points for the first time. Pretty much the threshold for a point-per-game player. And that's what Marchand has been aiming for the past 7-8 years now. That's the type of player he's turned into. Maybe a little bit of a down year this year, 47 points in 61 games. Hasn't given Boston that same type of scoring he's given in the past. 21 goals, 26 assists. This would help this Devils top six. Especially when you need him for that, that period of time, just that short period of time, getting into the playoffs, playing the playoffs, hopefully a little bit longer in the playoffs. That's where you want. Now, when you look at this top six, because I talked about it in earlier videos, where the top six, 3 players with third line production, and doesn't maybe fit the role of a playoff team. Well, looking at the top line in Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Andre Palat, they score more than most lines. They're top 3 in the league. One of the few lines has played 500 minutes a night, or not 500 minutes a night, 500 minutes this season. They're one of the top lines in terms of goal scoring. And the nice part is that the underlying numbers back that up. They're top in almost every single expected goals for metric, or they're towards the top, especially for a line that has played as often as they have. So this is a line that definitely knows how to score, knows how to be effective. But when I look at this line, I have three players. 2 of them are over point per game players. The other one hoping to get 35 points. Okay, this isn't so much, a great line. This is 2 superstars playing and creating. They don't have that other winger on that line. And that's not a diss at Andre Palat at all. I think Andre Palat has had out of his 3 years on New Jersey, this is definitely his best season. But he's not a first-line player. He's not somebody on this team that's supposed to be a point-per-game player. It's not his role. He's not somebody who's irreplaceable, per se. Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, yeah, a little bit harder, a little bit tougher to come by. I look at Brad Marchand, and I go, well, I got a player who's been a point-per-game player multiple times in the past. He's had multiple 85, 100-point season. He's had a 100-point season. He has 138 points in 157 playoff games. It starts to make a little bit more sense. Now, Andre Palat, we remember, he was very good in the playoffs. He's on 138 points in 157 games. And he's probably up there in the Conn Smythe Trophy the year the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup. Before he was a star, he's up there. Just, Tim Thomas had a really good run, and David Krejci was also really strong down the middle. Devils are strong down the middle, too. When I look at Brad Marchand, look, he's going to produce in the playoffs. We've seen it. I like to see things that I already know. Like, if I already know it, I feel a lot better with it. Not, something that, we want to see if it could happen. No, we know Brad Marchand's going to play well in the playoffs. Before last season, he had 10 points in 11 playoff games. Before that, it's 3 straight games of over a point per game player in the playoffs. Regular season numbers may have dropped a little bit. Put him with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. Let's see how that experiment goes. I'd bet on the over in terms of points and the type of play that he gives the Devils. Now, obviously, I said earlier, everything has a price. A point-per-game player, a guy who produces in the playoffs, possible future Hall of Famer, there's going to be a hefty price to that. Now, let's get it out of the way. This is a rental. This is not some player who, we're bringing in, he's part of the future. We're going to, we have the core. We already kind of know what our core is. Now, can you add to the core? Yeah, sure. They're over 30 years old, not really adding to the core. Expiring deal, probably doesn't re-sign. This is a rental player. Now, if you want to go to a first-round pick for Brad Marchand, I'm for that. That could work. Add in something, a little bit more minor. You probably don't get it done in a first, but add in a little bit something more minor. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with giving up a first-round pick and a little bit something minor for a guy who's going to have who has 138 points in 157 playoff games and can take out the guy who's going to try and get 35 this year to go play with your 2 superstars. That works for me. If this conversation gets to a point where the names of Simon Nemec, Artur Siliev, Seamus Casey, if those names get mentioned, this deal doesn't work anymore. There's no way that you do this deal if those names are mentioned. A player who isn't going to re-sign. A player on the downward spiral of his career. Player that, adds something, but isn't, complete game changer anymore. I'm not giving up one of my top prospects or something like that. Now, if we talk Mikko Rantanen, sure. We can talk about a Mikko Rantanen even if he's just a rental. 35-year-old, 34-year-old Brad Marchand as a rental, no. Not one of my top prospects for Brad Marchand. If one of those names gets mentioned, I want nothing to do with the deal. If you mention a first-round pick, I'm going to stay on the phone. Brad Marchand, let's not say, although I just said some stuff about Brad Marchand that maybe weren't as, intriguing. Let's be honest with ourselves. Brad Marchand makes 31 NHL teams in the league better today and one not as good Boston Bruins. He makes you better right away. He fits in right away. It would be a good fit. Now, maybe, type of player he is, however you feel about that, he's a star in the NHL. They're tougher to come by. First round pick and something a little bit more minor, I could work with that. The issue is when you get to a Simon Nemec, when you get to a Seamus Casey, when you get to an Artur Siliev. When you start touching around those names, it doesn't feel, super excited anymore. It's not the type of players that should be going back in this deal. You have a top line in the NHL right now. You probably want to add something to it because you know where it's coming from those two players. I mean, you could kind of put any other player. No diss on Andre Palat. You could put another player there. It's more replaceable. You set it up with Brad Marchand, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt. You're going to create a lot more. That'd be one of the top, already is one of the top lines in NHL. Other teams in the playoffs would have a tough time dealing with that. So, Brad Marchand, do you want him on the Devils? Yes. Price has to work, though. Everything has a price. We know Boston wants to keep him. Everything has a price, though. So, that when you look at Brad Marchand, what's that price going to be? That's kind of where your head should go. It is a rental. It would be a rental. He's not re-signing in New Jersey. He doesn't make sense for plans going forward. He makes sense if you want to try and go into June. And after June, quick story. Sometimes the story doesn't always have to be long. It can be better, though. The story can be good in a shorter story. Sometimes you don't want to be there all day reading a story, trying to figure out what the ending's going to be. Sometimes you just kind of want to get the quick ending. And putting Marchand in, it'd work. Let me know what you guys think below, though. What you think, Brad Marchand and New Jersey. Is it a fit? Is it not? What would you give up? Let me know down below. All right. Thanks, guys.